Hey folks, welcome back. So today we're going to take a look at a video, real quick one about O-rings and maybe figure out how to fix one of these. I don't know the exact answer yet because I don't know the exact size that we need yet, but we're going to try to figure this out. And then, so we might have to take multiple video takes of this one. But how many times have you folks tried this where, you put your magazine in that you thought was loaded, and you haven't used it in a while, you cycle the slide back, then you pull the trigger, and then you hear this. It's a click. Nothing goes wrong, or nothing goes off, right? And it's because you're out of gas. So this is the same Elite Force Glock that I had since I think last year, really at this point. And it's always been leaking at the bottom. There's an O-ring that really wraps around this part that. For some reason, on a lot of the Glock mags I've had, they seem to leak down there. There are O-rings on the top and the release valves too, and then O-rings on the intake valves underneath this as well. But those, for some reason, out of the 20 or not 20, like 10 or 15 mags I have, they don't leak in those two places. They only leak on the outer rim, which would be around here. So today we're going to see if maybe they share the same O-ring sizes as the Stark Arms Glock. A few weeks ago, I've had to replace a Stark Arms. Again, it's the Stark Arms. It's the old Glock system, and made by VFC. And they used a very I found an O-ring size that fit with them. Now, Elite Force, which is, these new Glock models right here, well, they're not really new anymore, right? But they use pretty much the same design for them in certain areas as the VFC, the Stark Arms Glock. So I would imagine that same O-ring size will fit with this one right here. So today we're going to do that. We're going to take apart this magazine and replace the O-ring, and hopefully we can get this leaking to stop once and for all. Again, I just never got around to doing it because I didn't use it that too much often, but I think now would be a good time to try to fix this. All right.
Okay, so let's get started. So I've already removed the base plate. As you can see, you kind of hold down the mag follower down there, and then pull this straight out. Sometimes you can, if it's kind of stiff, you can use a pencil or a mechanical pencil, whatever, a pin, and push it down, and then pull it out. But in this case, I can just use my thumb and pull that down. There are 3 screws down here that you need to remove in order to access this. So because you don't want this flying out on you, make sure you hold that down before you completely unscrew all these down here. So I'll fast forward through these because this is pretty boring. Okay, now I'm down to the last screw right here. So just a quick note, the larger screw right here goes in the back. These 2 front ones right here are the smaller screws right here. So they're not all completely the same, as I'm finding out right now. Okay. So there you go. So now I'm going to slowly let go. Remember, we want to keep this part, the follower, held down here because remember the spring, it's under a lot of spring pressure now. We don't want it to go flying. So slowly let it go and release it. Oh no. Okay, so they use a totally proprietary system right here. Ay ay ay. Which sucks, right? Because now I don't know if I'm going to be able to replace this. It's funny because in the old Stark Arms, or they used, I could have sworn I bought a couple of these back then. But when I opened it, it actually used an O-ring that was fit this size right here. These are the dimensions right here. Now, I wish it was in a different form because it's easier to find. This is the O-ring store. This is something I just found at the local Home Depot, in like the washers, sink, kitchen section. This you can buy the exact dimensions for yourself, and this one fits for the WE Glock series, and these are the exact dimensions that you would type into the website, and you can buy a bunch of them. Very good store, by the way, based out in Washington, so I like to support local businesses, and they're pretty good. Really cheap too. You get like next day delivery. Well, it's right across the street from me. All right. Anyway, so I wonder though if it's possible that we can still use these O-rings here would kind of just maybe just wrap it around, I guess. I don't really know if you can or not, actually. Let me think about this. Okay, so unfortunately, once we open it, we found out that it makes its own proprietary O-ring. It's not even an O-ring, it's like an O square, I guess, that fits just like neatly as so. Um, which is very frustrating. This is my opinion here because the Elite Force Glock, they run for like $170, and that's before shipping and taxes and stuff like that. So really, it's gonna cost about $200 to get one of these guns, which I understand. You know, you get the full licensing, you get the official legit trades and everything like that. But you know, it's really, if you're gonna pay for that, you know, you at least need to support products, or at least keep some of the, you know, parts, you know, that, you know, could be available, like, you know, use parts that aren't proprietary. Because I know they know about this, and they know how everyone else uses these O-rings that you can just easily replace. And, you know, fortunately though for you folks though, remember, we don't have there. I did a video earlier about comparing the Elite Force magazines and the WE magazines. And again, fortunately, there are differences. Okay, don't get me wrong, there are differences, but it will be reasonable to use the WE Glock magazines into these Elite Force guns. Watch out that video. There's some subtle differences, but you could use those. And with those, you know that they use these magazines, or sorry, they use this magazine O-ring for the base plate right here, which you could easily replace and find at the O-ring store and get those fixed. But for something like this, where if this is, and by the way, these magazines, replacement magazines, run for $45, when all you really wanted to do was just fix this dang seal down here, you know? So the only two options are, if you're at this point where buying another magazine is just ridiculous because it's $45, and you obviously cannot find this piece anywhere, really, and you can't use a standard O-ring that you can get for about a couple cents at the store. So you really think only do is most people you have to do is you're gonna have to soak this with silicone oil and leave it overnight to swell, and hopefully by putting it back in there, it'll save its space. I, however, had an interesting story back then when before even the Elite Force came out, when it was just Stark Arms. You know, VFC would make these Stark Arm Glocks, and back then, you know, you had never know when the last Glock was going to be made ever, because those were always going to disappear, and once they disappeared, they were gone forever, right? So I bought, you know, a bunch of those, and then of course, you know, since I was afraid that they would, you know, cut me off supply and production of these, I bought a bunch of these spare parts. One of them happened to be, I was looking for was for the baseplate O-ring. And of course, it's interesting because on the Elite Force, or sorry, the Stark Arms Glock, the old ones, right? They actually use O-rings. This one right here, actually, as a base plate. And Stark Arms at the time also made another gun called the P99, or the P99 series gun. But their O-rings at the bottom, they use the square ones, exactly like this one right here. So interestingly enough, I bought one in hopes that I'll be able to use it, but then turns out it didn't even fit because Stark Arms used a different model. Fast forward to today, basically, Elite Force now switch it up on us to use, instead of using the regular O-ring, they use a proprietary one, which is really, again, really frustrating for me, you know, because it's just, you know, it's not always about the money. We're already paying up front. They should at least make it, you know, used like this. So my advice, again, would be, it's a little rant, I'm out of my soapbox right now, but my advice would be to use the WE magazine. It is a little bit weaker, but it's, you know, for the cost and the maintenance would be a lot more reasonable than this. All right, that being aside, since I did buy one by mistake for the P90 or PPQ, fortunately it will now work in this system right here, which is great. So let's see if this still works. It's still in the wrapper and everything like that. This one I had to buy it all the way halfway across the country, or no, across the world to get this one, and this is the only one I have in stock. I looked at the website again, it's not even there anymore, it's been sold out. But the serial number here is Stark A-PT-PPQ-04-9. That's the model you're looking for. Haven't opened this for several years, so hopefully this will work, and hopefully it's been sealed correctly. But hey, you know what? This is as good a time as any to ever use this. So let's see if it will work. All right. right, look at that. So let's see if they actually stack up and compare with each other. They look to be the same, and they are. Okay, so let's make sure it fits on this part. Okay, looks like it does. So I did try, by the way, try to take this O-ring and like squeeze it over the top, but again, because they made this screw that goes directly back there just to purposely screw with you, no pun intended, you can't use that. So you have, oh shoot, I mixed it up. Which one was which? Oh man, it was, I think it was this one. Oh boy. All right, well, I think it was this one. So what we'll do is we'll oil this one up, and then we'll put it back on, and then we'll go from there. Okay, and then of course to reinstall the gun, I re-oiled it and placed it back on there, and now we're going to put the base of the spring for the follower back into the gun like this. Hold it down as just like before, and then once you have that all oiled, turn this around and put it back in the gun. All right, looks like it's a good fit so far. I'm not surprised. Alrighty, and let's see here. Put the screws back in, and then just do the same thing. Make sure they're tight, and then we'll once we have the screws back in, continue to hold. Once we have the screws back in, we will test it and see if it fills with gas. Alrighty. Okay, screws are all in place. Let's fill up some gas and see if there's any leakage. Put it next to my ear to hear anything. Good, no bubbles coming out, no hissing sound. So there we go, it's now fixed. So I think what we could try to do is basically try to find the, I guess you can try to find the PPQ series. Now Umarex does make these, I believe, so we can probably search from buy those magazines. I don't know how much those magazines run for, but it's possible you can buy those magazines and salvage those parts to use for this gun. If you can still find this somewhere, that would be helpful for this. Or I wonder if there's a way, again, I wouldn't mind, if they even sold these for, like $1 a piece, and you would have to buy a couple of them. From the manufacturer or something like that, because it would be worth it, I guess, to replace your magazines. But I don't think they can find it. So I wonder if you can reach out to the manufacturer directly and ask to buy. Again, I'm not asking for it to be free or anything like that. I'm just saying it should be readily available, because they're really, forcing us to buy a $45 magazine. And if you're forcing us to buy that, you have to at least provide support for when the, something as common as the baseplate O-ring seal that's going to leak. And if you don't have that, I doubt anyone out there has this, and you're just ready to go. I just happen to have one. So, to fix this. So that's my opinion. If they don't end up doing that, I would not recommend buying these anymore, other than the one that comes with the gun. And I would just recommend sticking with the WE magazine, since at least you can get support parts for them, and easily fix what's, when it's leaking. Cool. Hope you folks found this really helpful. I know I was on my soapbox quite a little bit for this, but man, that really burns me when they do something like this, But I also hope that was very helpful too, and I'm glad we actually got a moment to an opportunity to use this. That's just been sitting in my spare parts bin right there. All right, thanks folks. See y'all next time.